biasanya turnout rate 50%, jadi mungkin ada 20-an lebih. Silakan kalau ingin bertanya ya, boleh raise hand nanti ataupun di chat gitu ya. Tapi tentu karena waktu terbatas, nggak semua pertanyaan bisa ditanyakan atau bisa dijawab. Oke, minta tolong di mute ya. Kita kadang-kadang kita nggak sadar nanti ada suara bocor. Kecuali kalau diminta host, kalau Anda raise hand. Oke, video recommended on, karena survei membuktikan kalau videonya on lebih membantu kita lebih fokus ya. Oke, jangan lupa rename. Sebagian dari kita dapat link dari teman, namanya sama semua ya. Internet mudah-mudahan lancar. Kalau nggak lancar dimaklumin ya. Jadi kadang-kadang bisa lagging internet saya, pembicara ataupun internet Bapak Ibu sekalian. Acara ini nggak akan ada recording. Dan materi, nggak ada materi sih, cuma ngobrol ya. Jadi hari ini nggak ada materi. Dan juga jangan lupa follow IG-nya sandlertraining.indo. Acara-acara seperti ini kita posting yang gratis ada di sana. Oke, sedikit perkenalan sebelum saya memperkenalkan Pak Vernon ya. Sedikit perkenalan tentang Sandler. Kita perusahaan training asalnya Amerika, ada di 27 negara sekarang. Di 50 training center. Jadi kita perusahaan sales training ya, sales training terbesar di dunia. Tahun training sekitar 500.000 jam ya. Oke. And beberapa program kita aja ya. Jadi sales training, sales leadership dan juga lain-lain ya. Oke. Oke, jadi tamu hari ini ada Pak Vernon Tan. Ya, Pak Vernon Tan adalah co-founder dan CEO dari Asia Renewables Carbon. Jadi Pak Vernon adalah teman kuliah saya dulu ya, berapa 20 tahun lalu kali. 20 tahun lalu ya, 20 years ago. Dan Pak Vernon memiliki Master of Science in Sustainable Development dari Imperial College London ya. Jadi sesuai dengan topik hari ini, what is sustainability and why should companies care? Okay, Vernon, are you ready?
Yeah, ready. Let's go.
Okay, Vernon. Okay, hari ini in English ya. Okay, Vernon is a Singaporean, an old friend. Thank you for your time. It's a very heavy topic for me. I'm not an expert in sustainability, but today we want to hear a lot from you and your thoughts about sustainability. Okay, sustainability. This is a topic that's becoming very popular, yeah, with companies, with climate change, and I think many news articles are talking about this, especially COP. We are hearing about net zero, yeah, and then the electric vehicles. All this is the same theme about saving our world, simply like that, right, Vernon?
Yes, that's one way of putting it. First of all, thank you, Robert, for inviting me. Thank you, everyone, for attending. Sorry, my bahasa is not very good, so bisa campur sedikit, yeah, but mostly English. Anyway, Robert.
Okay.
So, yeah, sustainability originally is actually two words. Yeah, yang dulu ya, sustainable.
Yeah.
So when I first started doing this, it was sustainable development. So this was a term coined by the UN.
Okay.
Now, fast forward, people want it too long. Yeah. So they shorten sustainability. It's essentially the same thing. So part of it is, yes, saving the world, doing a better job of using what we have. But the key element here is we try to conduct ourselves with a view for our future generation. So you want to enable the future generation to also meet their own needs. So this is the proper definition. That one a bit subjective because I have children. I have two young boys. When they grow up, what do I don't know, right? I can guess some assumption. Basic things they need, they need to have clean air to breathe, water, food,
Yeah.
From that, it's have different things. So when you talk about what is it, the UN has some definition about this. And then on a practical level, it can mean different things to different people. Yeah. It depends who you ask and what answer you want. So.
Okay, Fernand, let me go to this Paris Agreement. Okay, this is what we read a lot, right, about Paris Agreement. Maybe you can tell us a little bit more, because the definition is to limit global warming by maximum of 1.5 degrees Celsius above pre-industrials. I don't know what that means. Okay, but anyway, but the goal is net zero by 2050, and to cut, what is this? Let me try to read this. Okay, reduce carbon emissions by about half by 2030. So at the end of this decade.
Yeah.
Is that right? Can you tell us a little bit more about that? I think that's the Paris Agreement is where it all started. Am I right?
Yeah. So there's a few different things. So you think of sustainability as the big umbrella, okay? And one part of sustainability is climate change. The UN has, I think, 17 different goals that form up sustainability. So climate change is one of them. And you talk about Conference of Party, Paris Accord. This is specific to climate change. And why climate change is sort of out of the 17, this is one of the most important and the most urgent because of global warming. So the scientists have spent many years studying, and the report that came out is quite urgent. We have to do this amount of reduction to prevent a very drastic change in our weather. So, see, this year, recent years, people complain it's not too hot it's just unpredictable and extreme weather events. And when you do business, when you cannot predict, it becomes very challenging. So, also affects a lot of us living in Singapore and Indonesia. Because with global warming, the sea level will rise, or your coastline property will not be valuable. Better, move to the mountain, and so it affects us quite a lot. So that's the key, I guess, why it's urgent and why it's important. And then you talk net zero. 2050 is Singapore target. I believe Indonesia is 2060. Very close. 2030 is sort of the first checkpoint, and all the countries want to say, okay, how have we done? What's the progress towards 2050 or 2060? So these are intermediate targets that the country has set on the path to eventually zero. So that's sort of where everything is. Just to give you a framework.
Okay. Thank you. And then my next question will be, I read an article in Harvard Business Review said incremental change is no longer enough for climate change. So it said there's two ways to tackle this, right? One is adaptation, which is we're trying to take short-term solutions. If the sea level is rising, we're building walls. If the temperature is too hot, we install air cons. That's we adapt. And the other one is not the incremental change, is mitigation. We take drastic steps to change the way we operate, so we emit less carbons and everything. So I want to ask you, in the perspective of businesses, okay, this is a very big goal, right? I mean, Indonesia, we are slightly we are behind, right? That's why the target is probably behind 2060 rather than 2050 for developed nations, right? But for businesses, why should we care? We're not because we know whatever that is sustainable costs us more money. in Indonesia, plastics bag we are charged. We have to pay in the store, so it's not cheap. So why should we care?
Well, I suppose first of all, as with all businesses, the focus is a bit more short term,
Right.
and the reason we're talking about this now is because it's become important. People care about it so much so that it affects a company's valuation through its public perception. So I'll give you an example. All the US companies that are listed now, they have to have some form of a strategy for ESG, right? If they don't, first of all, I think SEC will start to ask questions, and then their share price is affected, right? So and for business, it's very simple. Come to dollar and cents, okay?
Right.
Yeah, so this is one way for public companies. For Indonesia, yes, same thing. Listed companies, they all have to produce a sustainability report. I think IDX started that, I think, 2021. So you need to have a strategy. Whether or not, you implement, you do, but you have to make the report, right? And if you don't, or your strategy is not very good, then maybe your share price is affected, right? Now you say, what if I'm not listed? What if I'm a private company? Indonesia has a carbon tax, supposed to start last year, already postponed twice. Sooner or later, they'll have, okay. So even if you're private, but you're a large emitter. So for example, you are either you have a lot of heavy industry, you are maybe a power plant, you burn coal, you produce electricity, you emit a lot. It becomes a cost to you, right? The current pricing for the carbon tax in Indonesia, I think, starts at roughly $2 US. Okay.
Sorry, what? How much is the carbon tax?
It's about $2 US.
$2 US. Okay.
So I if I'm not mistaken, the first phase only starts with the large emitter.
Banyak yang merasa bingung jika pensiun akan berbuat apa.
Banyak juga yang pensiun lalu terkena post-power syndrome.
Bagaimana cara mencegah hal-hal buruk terjadi kepada seseorang yang sudah pensiun?
Untuk mencegahnya, Anda harus tetap mempunyai kegiatan. Jika Anda seorang bisnismen, Anda harus tetap mempunyai usaha yang membuat happy dan akan membuat Anda bebas dari post-power syndrome.
Untuk itu, maksimalkan masa pensiun Anda dan rancang masa depan dengan mengikuti seminar sehari 54 merancang masa pensiun bersama Tanadi Santoso dan Made Muku. Sabtu 11 Februari di Hotel Ibis Jakarta Harmoni. Dalam seminar sehari ini, Anda akan mendapatkan opsi-opsi terbaik dengan cara berpikir yang lebih jernih dan praktis dalam melewati masa-masa pensiun Anda.
Pendaftaran WhatsApp 081 97 924 924 081 97 924 924. Investasi 1.200.000. Diskon 50% untuk peserta dengan tahun kelahiran 1969.
You're listening to 92.4 Pas FM, Jakarta's premier business station.
Info Falas. Info Falas Pas FM.
Inilah nilai tukar sejumlah mata uang dibanding dolar Amerika. Euro 1.074. Dolar Australia 0.689, pound sterling 1.252. Sementara dolar Amerika dibanding yen Jepang 132.61, Swiss franc 0.927. Sedangkan kurs mata uang lainnya dibanding rupiah adalah ringgit Malaysia 3.540.25, baht Thailand 464.32, dolar Singapura 11.619.82. Bitcoin 269.430.000, Ethereum 20.634.000, USDT 15.466. Harga emas 1.886.7 dan perak 24.0 dolar Amerika per troy ounce. Harga minyak mentah di New York Mercantile Exchange 75.33 dolar Amerika per barrel.
Masih kita ikuti 60 menit Sandler membahas What is Sustainability and Why Should Companies Care bersama Vernon Tan, co-founder and CEO Asia Renewables Carbon.
Because the company like Amazon is actually selling cloud services to help other businesses which is emitting a large emitter. They're protesting. So can you talk about is it happening like the younger generation? Because I'm not young anymore, Brennan. You know, you and me of the same age. But anyway, like, are we really seeing a trend that the younger generations is asking for this? Like, you know, they want to work.
In societies in the US, maybe Europe, but this only happens when people have food on the table, they have job security, then they ask for these things, right?
Right.
I mean, if you're fresh out of college, it's recession year, which this year might jolly well be recession year. You can't afford to, beggar cannot be chooser. But when times are good, you have many to work for, But having said that, if you're a big company and a lot of your employees have this, and they group together, you can't fire everyone, okay? And I think it actually is a positive. If your employees have this mindset, then that's a way to motivate them to do the things. And some of that will overlap with, that will also be good for the company, right? So as employers, as management, I think if you have employees who have this mindset, you should harness it and make full use of it and not try to fight it. Of course, not too extreme. End of the day, business answerable not just to your employees, but also to the shareholders. So you can't spend 3% of your profit trying to, clean up the oceans. That's, not quite the but do enough to engage the employees and definitely make them feel like the company is cares about what the employees think. And it goes both ways. If you care about your employees care about you. All right. But I think for Singapore, for Indonesia, I think that's the minority. I don't think we have a lot of that happening, unless these are companies with a lot of foreigners and expatriates.
Okay.
But seems to me more a trend in the US, maybe parts of Europe.
Okay. Yang hadir di sini kalau ingin bertanya boleh ketik di chat ya. So you can ask questions through the chat, and then mitra bisnis yang di udara boleh kirim WhatsApp 0816924924, nanti saya translate ya, 0816924924 kalau ada pertanyaan untuk Vernon. Okay, I want to go back to Vernon.
Yes.
So you're saying that what do you call it, trend from the employees is more in developed countries where they are generally have better welfare than people in our region. Is that what you're trying to say?
Well, not so much better welfare, but the culture also. I think Western culture, they're a lot more expressive, a lot more about the individual, whereas in Asia, it's more about, the group, the community, the collective. Plus, I think the awareness level is definitely higher in Western societies. I mean, I can't speak for all the companies here. Like you said, we're not that young generation. Maybe those coming into the workforce, they're very passionate about it. For me personally, I've seen it so much so that it affects what the company wants to do, and it's not in Singapore, Indonesia.
Okay.
Belum.
Yeah. Okay. Going back to how can companies participate in this big mission, right? You mentioned that there's two angles. The first one is, the listed companies. It's the compliance, right? They have to submit a sustainability report. Okay, that's compliant. And the second way is actually, you mentioned one example. They can actually earn money by doing projects that if certified, they can sell their carbon credits or carbon offsets. Can you tell us in more detail about how can, like, if I have a small company, or small medium enterprise, how can a small medium company participate, like do this without actually incurring high costs?
Okay, for carbon credits, it's quite straightforward. Most Indonesian businesses, they have a few businesses, and typically we see they have heavy industry, which are large emitters. So by improving your processes, by changing your source of energy, and bring down that emission, and that difference you could capture as carbon credits. Now, it always comes back to scale. If you can generate 100 credits, no, it's not worth doing, because there's a lot of costs involved in documentation and approval. So you want to maybe be able to generate every year at least 50,000 credits, ideally 100,000 credits. Then you might see economies of scale, you might see more profit. Anything below, still doable, but depends on the market prices, and depends on the appetite of the buyer. Okay, so that's one type of project. However, a lot of buyers these days, they buy not just for their compliance needs, they also buy it for the story.
Okay.
Yeah, so they want to be able to write in their annual report, make a corporate video. Oh, it's a nice story. So the other extreme is they go do community projects in a village in Africa where replace the cook stoves with some solar cook stove, I think, and it reduces the emissions by only a few hundred tons. Very, very small and not really worth the cost, but the story has value, right? It's sexy, That's the other extreme. For Indonesia, that could work as well, if it tells a good story. But generally what we see, the sweet spot right now is what we call nature-based carbon.
Nature-based carbon.
Yeah, simply means you have land, okay, and you plant trees. Trees absorb carbon. If you wait for 1 year, you can get credits issued for the amount of carbon stored. And you probably want, maybe good size would be, let's say you have 20,000 hectares. At least 10,000 hectares, right? So you spend some money on trees, you try not to chop it down, you have some fire prevention, so it's almost like agriculture. But you plant native species, and it's not about yield, it's not about how much palm oil you get or rubber. It's just making sure, actually it's the same, it's how much carbon you can store in the ground. Okay, so that generate credits. And I want to take this idea a little bit further. What if you say, my land already has trees, a lot of trees, native jungle, even better, right? The demand is right now so strong that people will actually pay you to protect this jungle, this forest, to prevent you from chopping it down. And the argument is simple. Say, next door, my plantation, my land next door is, let's say, is Chipeo, yeah, and they have a concession for palm. So very naturally, I'm tempted to chop down all the trees and plant palm oil, right? Because it makes sense. It's nearby. I can sell to my neighbor, or I can do it myself. So the temptation is there. So the idea is that, we don't want people to chop down native forests to plant palm oil, right? How do we pay them, right? We say that, okay, if I don't pay you, business as usual, next year or next 2 years, you're going to chop down everything, you become palm oil. And when you chop down everything, release carbon dioxide. When you plant palm oil, the activity itself is polluting, right? It has emission. You add together, if I can prevent you from chopping down the trees, I prevent you from planting palm oil, I actually prevent this carbon dioxide from being released. So you can. So essentially, some people say, "Is it? Are you crazy?" They tell me, "Hey, Indonesia will say, jangan bohong," right? Yeah. Can you get paid for doing nothing? I say, yes, you can pay, because that's the idea. That's the principle behind it. You can get paid for doing nothing. Of course, you have to protect. You have to protect that. You have to really, because they will come and check. These days, there's drone and all that. You cannot fake it.
Right.
So the trees are still there. You didn't secretly plant palm oil in one corner. So and then you have to locals from going in to chop down the trees or burn it down or something. So you have to do some preventive work. But essentially, idea is it's quite simple. You don't do anything. We pay to do anything.
So who's actually paying us to be security guard for guarding the trees? So, who wants to pay this, Bernard? Can you disclose some names?
So these are the same societies that have young people telling their employees what to do. Yeah, I mean.
Oh, okay.
Seriously, for people in Europe, their cost of compliance is very high. Right?
I see. Okay.
If I'm a large polluter or emitter in Europe, there's a limit to how much I can reduce.
Okay.
Right? Up to a certain point, the next ton I reduce is very expensive. It's much cheaper for me to go to Indonesia and buy a credit. Why call right? It's a credit, it's offset. I buy 1 ton, I offset my obligation in Europe. Right? Offset my obligation in US. Right? So it makes sense, because 1 ton of pollution, of emission, whether it's in Indonesia or China or US or Europe, it doesn't matter. It contributes to the same. So the global nature of the problems mean 1 ton here is same as 1 ton there. And if I can produce it very cheap, right? Why would I want to make a T-shirt in the UK when I can make it very cheap in China? It doesn't make sense. It's the same T-shirt.
Right.
Yeah. So that's the idea behind it. Just to give you an example, there are many other types of projects, but generally for carbon credits, it's energy, nature-based, right? And then the last one, the very sexy one, is this kind of community project. So very small projects, but they have a very good story to tell.
Wow. So actually, carbon credits is not like US dollars, pound sterling, Indonesian rupiah has different value, right? So it's all the same. That's why we buy from Indonesia.
Yeah, usually it's either traded in mostly US dollars, sometimes in euros. So, yeah, I mean...
Okay.
Mitra bisnis, tahun 2023 katanya tahun gelap, tahun resesi. Kalau benar terjadi, kemungkinan customer mengencangkan ikat pinggang, tapi bukan berarti customer tidak beli. Lalu apa yang harus tim sales kita lakukan? Mindset dan skill set seperti apa yang harus dimiliki untuk menang? Jangan lewatkan seminar sehari Selling in a Crisis dari Sandler Training Rabu 25 Januari membagikan strategi bagaimana mengubah ancaman menjadi peluang, taktik mempertahankan customer, dan bagaimana mendapatkan bisnis baru di tahun yang penuh ketidakpastian ini. Segera hubungi 0813 1809 6878. Sekali lagi 0813 1809 6878 agar seluruh tim sales Anda selangkah di depan dari kompetitor.
92.4 Pas FM, Radio Bisnis Jakarta.
Info Falas dipersembahkan oleh Indodax.com.
Inilah nilai tukar sejumlah mata uang dibanding dolar Amerika, Euro 1.075, dolar Australia 0.690, Pound Sterling 1.211. Sementara dolar Amerika dibanding Yen Jepang 132.67, Swiss franc 0.927, sedangkan kurs mata uang lainnya dibanding rupiah adalah Ringgit Malaysia 3.540.25, Baht Thailand 462,95, Dolar Singapura 11.619,82, Bitcoin 269.430.000, Ethereum 20.639.000, USDT 15.461, harga emas 1.883,4 dan perak 23.91 dolar Amerika per troy ounce. Harga minyak mentah di New York Mercantile Exchange 75.39 dolar Amerika per barrel.
Info Falas dipersembahkan oleh Indodax.com. Untuk update nilai tukar Bitcoin dan aset digital lain, klik Indodax.com.
Masih kita ikuti 60 menit Sandler membahas What is Sustainability and Why Should Companies Care bersama Vernon Tan, co-founder and CEO Asia Renewables Carbon.
Released, but even for strip mining, there is amount of methane produced. So as a miner itself, you are generating emissions, and methane 21 times more potent than carbon dioxide. So 1 ton of methane is equivalent to 21 tons of carbon. So coal mine methane, coal bed methane, these are also emissions that result from mining activities. So that's an that if I were a coal miner in Indonesia, I would probably want to start thinking maybe they already have, because if the government wants to reduce emissions, this would be one of the first areas they look at. So I'm not really up to date in these areas, but I imagine if I'm a coal miner, that's what I would start looking at.
Okay, so it's about rethink their business model and really for some of the drastic measures. Either you switch to clean tech or you leave the business altogether if you really care about this, right?
Well, long term, okay. I mean, you look at big oil, right? Your BP, your Esso, your all the Chevron, all that. They always spend a lot on PR and try to make themselves look like they're progressive. But essentially, you look at the balance, you look at the revenue, look at the P&L. I mean, 90 or 95% of revenue still comes from oil and gas, traditional, right? So they will fight the PR battle and try to continue the money-making stuff for as long as they can. But that's the long term, right? The short-term one, I would say, if you can do projects to reduce your methane emission, your greenhouse gas emission, then you can make money from it right now and give you a sort of a advantage for the future compliance, right? So as a coal miner, let me think about, I reduce my carbon footprint now, generate some carbon credits, sell that to make money, and then when the compliance comes in, then I'm in a very good position because I already know how to reduce my carbon.
Yeah. Okay. Then there's a question by Pak Stepanus. Pak Stepanus, do you want to talk straight rather than I read your question? Can you open your mic? Hello, Pak. Monggo, Pak.
Yeah. Hi, how are you?
Yeah.
I know.
Fine.
Can you say your questions, Pak Stepanus? Sorry?
Yeah. So, me? Can you hear me?
Yeah. Can you say your questions, Pak?
Okay. Yeah. Regarding the actually, this is my statement actually. The sustainability is actually the big jargon, but the homework is actually how to change the perception of the people to see sustainability into the mass one, not the nice to have one. So the sustainability should be embedded into the business strategy and business a new business model actually. Yes. But how to operationalize the new business model in this era actually? This is actually the challenge of many of us and also for Vernon actually. How the startup to to see this opportunity to help and assist the old economy company like natural resources and also many big company to see the new business model and to help people and also to help this planet to move forward. Actually, that's actually my statement. How's your opinion regarding this? Actually,
transformation or change, there has to be a motivation for it. So for large businesses, whether businesses large or small, it's run by people, right? So if you look at the people running the companies, what is their motivation? Is it dollars and cents? Is it they have more altruistic, they want to do some good, right? So some companies, it's more about dollars and cents. You have to demonstrate that it results in cheaper financing, it boosts the company's valuation. Then management will implement these things, right? For other companies, the company leaders themselves, they want to do some good, they want to leave a cleaner place for their children and their children's children. Then they will implement it for those reasons, not so much. So it very much boils down to each individual company and the owners, the managers, what makes them tick. Now there's a lot of awareness. There's a lot of people pushing for it. A lot of young people start new companies, try to effect these changes, and I think that's good. For the whole conversation, the whole awareness. Last year was a big year when Wall Street came out and called out a lot of people for greenwashing. Okay, so the lip service, they just say, they make a nice video, the report is very nice. But if you look a bit deeper, you ask a few more questions, there's not much substance, right? So they just appear to be green. Well, it's not great, but at least there's the awareness that you need to look to appear green. The next step will actually be green, right? But if you don't even want to look green, then the next step is not going to happen. So my personal take is it's going to take time, but it needs to translate into dollars and cents, because most of the businesses, end of the day, are still about dollars and cents. Yeah. So green back, the color of money also green, right? So
Okay. So greenwashing. Yeah. So thank you, Pa Stefanus, for your question. So Vernon, you said it is better to look green as the next logical step before we go full green, rather than not green at all. That's it.
But people want to look green, and that's great, because the opposite is people don't care. They don't want to look green. They don't care. Right? So you start from always, people want to look good. Then when Wall Street calls, hey, you're pretending, you then they okay, let's really try to do more, so we don't get shamed. The analysts meet us, So I think it takes time to really see the change happen.
Right, because I think recently when I read about this greenwashing, some clothing brands, they sometimes they put tags like responsible cotton and it's actually not very true, So some have to take down those labeling.
Yes.
Because, as you said, it is a form of greenwashing, to appear not as green as it appeared.
Yeah, and that's a good thing, because then the general consumer, the awareness level is higher now, right? And with social media, with the internet, it's very easy to check whether your label is true or not true, right? So you are. If it's not a very good label, or they know you're pretending, then it's good. It's self-policing, right? So it keeps the businesses honest. Because if you get caught one time, two times, by the third time, nobody's going to believe you. Your share price will be severely affected already. Yeah. Imagine now these people, they say, okay, let's boycott this company, right? right? Especially in China, when you do something to offend the people there, they all boycott your. That's it, man. That's the end of your Chinese market. You're done. So I think companies who get caught once, they'll once bitten, twice shy. They really think twice before trying to do it again.
Right.
So the overall
story, Vernon. Some story. You said, okay, Vernon. There was a comment by Pak Stefanus actually interesting, embedded in the business strategy. I want to know, I think what you said is right. At the end of the day, it's dollar and cents, and then of course, how is the government? Is it a compulsory thing to do or not? Right, the government policies. For example, in Indonesia, we go to supermarket, we have to pay for plastic bags because of the laws by the government. Right, in Singapore, plastic bag is still free in cold storage. Am I right? And even I like to take more. You have to pay for it.
So some places they charge you. Some places it's not.
But not all. Indonesia, you want to tapao food, they want to charge you for it. So because of the law. So I think a lot of it would depend on how the government is actually enacting laws for this. Dollars and cents. Of course, the companies are happy because it saves the money, right? they will charge you for plastic bag. Okay, but anyway, going back to the comments by Pak Stefanus, how can we embed something in the business strategy? Like, for example, is there any measurements that companies can embed or KPIs in their dashboard or something just to track how green they are, or are they making efforts? Can you tell a little thing about this?
Yeah.
Mitra Bisnis memperkenalkan kawasan terbaru, Hiera, the Heartland of BSD City. Hiera hadir di kawasan 108 hektar mixed-use development dengan konsep TOAD, Transit Oriented Development. Kemudahan akses tol Serpong Balaraja dan stasiun kereta baru bernama Jatake, serta fasilitas holistik terbaik di kelasnya. Klaster premium baru bernama Welton, terdiri dari bangunan 2 dan 3 lantai. Hunian yang menjadi jawaban untuk semua penghuni yang menginginkan hunian modern dan tetap mengusung gaya hidup sehat. Welton at Hiera merupakan satu-satunya kawasan hunian di area BSD yang memiliki area pedestrian sepanjang 3,7 km untuk Green Loop, 1 km Green Belt, serta kehadiran jalan bebas kendaraan yang menciptakan udara bebas polusi yang menciptakan keseimbangan antara lingkungan hijau dan gaya hidup modern. Harga 2,5 miliaran rupiah menjadi sangat terjangkau karena banyaknya keuntungan dan nilai plus dari Welton at Hiera ini. Segera miliki unit Welton at Hiera. Dapatkan pilihan voucher menarik mulai dari 5 juta hingga 350 juta dan diskon maksimum bagi para pembeli perdana. Informasi lebih lanjut hubungi WhatsApp 088 9999 09988 088 9999 09988 atau sosial media @Hiera BSD. Segera booking unit pilihan Anda. Hiera, the heartland of BSD City.
You're listening to 92.4 Pas FM, Jakarta's premier business station.
Info, falas, Pas FM.
Inilah nilai tukar sejumlah mata uang dibanding dolar Amerika. Euro 1.073, dolar Australia 0.688, pound sterling 1.211. Sementara dolar Amerika dibanding yen Jepang 132.64, Swiss franc 0.928. Sedangkan kurs mata uang lainnya dibanding rupiah adalah ringgit Malaysia 3.540.25, Baht Thailand 462.86, dolar Singapura 11.619.82, Bitcoin 269.431.000, Ethereum 20.635.000, USDT 15.465. Harga emas 1.881.8 dan perak 23.9 dolar Amerika per troy ounce. Harga minyak mentah di New York Mercantile Exchange 75.5 dolar Amerika per barrel.
Masih kita ikuti 60 menit Sandler membahas What is Sustainability and Why Should Companies Care bersama Vernon Tan, co-founder and CEO Asia Renewables Carbon.
Depends what your business situation is. There's a lot of different ways to measure and to improve.
Okay. So it goes back to what's in it for me. If it's mandated, and if people see they can gain something, people start doing it.
The thing, right? Indonesia, they have the carbon tax, but it's not implemented to everyone. So you want to get ahead of compliance. You don't want to wait till, tomorrow it starts, then today, then you start thinking about it. Then it's a little bit late. Then you end up paying premium. Right? If you could start doing it now and make money while doing it, why not? That puts you in good shape for the compliance that is to come. It's, 2060 doesn't seem very far away, but 2030 is less than 7 years away.
Mm-hmm.
You blink and you're there. And I guarantee you, 2027, 28, 29, when you get very close to 2030, the price of carbon will start to shoot up.
Okay.
It's human.
So,
when it's close, then you start to worry. Now, 7 years, very far away. So that, masih jauh.
Masih jauh, yeah. So,
You're there.
Human nature, most of us like to do last-minute study.
Yeah. So those who discipline and those who have vision, you plan ahead. Then when you're close to 2030, you're in a position to sell at a good price because you have surplus, right? Everybody didn't plan ahead, then okay, they have to pay premium, no choice, right?
So Vernon, you just now you described quite in details that a company can actually study their emissions, and then they can start to think what actions to take, right? And so they have to engage consultant to do this, to actually study. Like I don't know, maybe the simplest one is, are you driving a car to office, or are your employees taking public transport, or are they taking electric bikes? Is that the kind of thing that you're referring to?
Yeah, so you generally have two types of consultants. Some they claim they can do both, but it's a bit of a different animal. So the first type is to establish your baseline. So basically like an audit.
Establish baseline, okay.
Like an audit, right? Like what you mentioned, due to your business operating, what is the emissions, right? And generally, most consultants group them into three. They call scope 1, which is direct result of your operations. Scope 2, which is indirectly, so maybe your supply, so on. And scope 3, which is the one that's furthest from you, but still because of you, there's emission, right? So as a consultant to do the audit, you basically, based on each scope, define the limit, and then you make an estimate of how much emission from each area. Yeah. And then you add it all together, that's your annual emissions. So not difficult. It's more tedious. Maybe the difficult part is to determine where the boundaries are for your emissions. But that's the baseline. Then that also is a management decision. You want to be zero.
Do you do this baseline, Vernon? Do you provide this consulting?
I myself, no, not at the moment. But we do have partners that we work with that can do it. It takes a special breed. I'm not the auditor type, so you ask me to do not so good. But the fun stuff is, you want from the baseline, you want to go to your target. How do you get there? Okay. So that to me is the
target is always net zero, right? That's a target, right?
That's a long-term target, but in the long term,
that's a long-term target.
In the long run, we are all dead. So, So we just take one at a time. 2030, I think, focus.
Okay. 2030. Okay, 7 years.
Yeah, too far away. 26. I don't know if I'm around 2060. So
2060. Okay, we'll talk on that later.
yeah.
Let our children worry, not us.
You don't want to give your children too much to worry, right? So yeah. But one thing.
Yeah.
So the fun stuff is how you achieve the target. The how, the why. What projects to do, which areas to reduce. That's always good. So, yeah.
Okay, so first would be to get some auditors, establish your baseline, and then see how far you away from the 2030 target, right? That's the closest milestone, 7 years away. And then
it's like New Year's, right, Robert? That I want to lose weight, right? I'm 100 kilos now. I step on the weighing scale and tell me what my weight is. Very simple. For carbon, maybe complex. But once you find out what your weight is, then you decide your target. I want to lose 10 kilos, right? By the end of the
year.
Essentially, every month you got to lose about 1 kilo, there, give or take.
Yeah.
Right? So then, you want to lose. You want to lose maybe the first 5 kilos are easy to lose. The next 5 are last kilo is always the hardest. So you need to have some. You change your diet, you exercise, So it's a bit like that, right? Essentially.
Right. But studies have shown that after 2 months, usually we forget about New Year's resolution.
2 weeks. I mean, today
2 weeks.
3 more people will forget their New Year resolution.
Okay.
First week, gym is always very full. Second week, no.
Okay, Brian, the last one, there's a question here from Tribudi. I'm just going to read it. I think we've discussed a little bit about this, but green energy equals expensive. Is that true? How can companies survive, especially in this economy? You mentioned about recession, maybe, coming up if they are practicing green energy.
Yeah. Okay, it's yes. I would say in general it's more expensive because if it's cheaper, people will do it anyway. People will do it, right? Like people who, if your factory is near a big river, then you tap hydro energy. It doesn't make sense to ship in coal from far away to burn. I mean, it's a business cost, right? But the whole point of carbon credits, the idea behind it is, I give you a little bit extra incentive so that you go and switch to green energy. Some cases, it's not enough, right? The carbon credits is too little, then doesn't make a difference. Some cases, other case, carbon credits can be 10-20% of your project cost. Then it makes sense to do, right? So the idea behind carbon credits is ideally it should help you to make up your mind to switch, right? Without the extra money you earn from it, maybe I don't switch. Because you're right, green energy in general is going to be more expensive. But also depends how far you look, right? You do a 3-year projection, 5-year, 10-year, 20-year, then the numbers look a bit different. Yeah. So no doubt, as a business, you want your cost to be lowest. But then if you do coal and then your shareholders and the public perception, your company image takes a hit, your share price devalued because of that, then there's a cost, right?
Right.
So I don't think for Indonesia, not yet, but don't forget the carbon tax, next year, this year, next year.
Okay, Vernon, last 5 minutes. Okay, I have one final questions. Okay, this is something that you mentioned, from cradle to grave and back to cradle. I think you're talking about circular economy, right?
Circular economy is a new term, very sexy word.
Can you explain a little bit more on that?
Essentially, traditionally this is called.
You die, then you come back alive, is it?
Yeah. It's reincarnation. No, not reincarnation.
Reincarnation.
This is the, what do you call?
Lazarus.
Jesus comes alive again. Serious. This is just the term for it is life cycle analysis. Okay?
Life cycle analysis, okay.
Life cycle analysis. So to give you a very simple example, you're in the office and suddenly your boss said, no more paper cup. Everybody bring their own mug.
Tumbler. Okay.
Yeah, whatever, right? And so you have two scenarios, right? So intuitively people think, okay, paper cup is very wasteful, you have to chop trees down and all that. But to do apples to apples comparison, you actually need to do a cradle to grave analysis, right? The paper cup comes from trees, I assume. If it's not, the trees take, there's a cost to planting the tree, bring it down, and then making the wood into pulp and then paper, and then you transport the cup, and then you use the cup. After you use the cup, there's disposal, right? The thing sent to the landfill or incinerated, and then that's the end of it. Or if you recycle the cup back, so you have to capture that whole life cycle and say this is the cost on the planet Earth, on the environment. And people think, okay, that should be more polluting, intuitively you think. But then you think about the mug. The mug, you have to make the mug, right?
Right.
So, you have to dig from the earth. There's a cost to digging that. You have to fire it in the kiln. You have to make the mug. And then you have to wash it. Right? Wash it.
Right, using soap.
Yeah, making the soap, transporting the soap, using the soap. Maybe not a lot, but you wash it every day. Maybe you wash it twice a day. I don't know. Okay, and then the water goes into the sewage. Sewage, there's treatment costs. It goes into the environment. It kills the fishes. I don't know. Right. So the whole point is life cycle analysis. Is the whole.
Okay.
So, the other example is electric vehicle. People say, "Oh, EV is very clean. EV is very clean." Currently, there's a lot of debate, and it's not 100% clear because there's
78% of electricity is from coal in Indonesia.
Yes. Also, producing the electric vehicle, your battery production is expensive, is very polluting. To mine, produce the battery, and then what happens at the end of the life cycle? The battery needs to be disposed. If you're going to put it in landfill, it's very big environmental costs, right? So it's more so than circular economy. It's more thinking about from the first point you make the product, from all the raw materials you extract from the earth, manufacture it, transport it, the usage, and then the disposal, where the resource either return or they are disposed of. Then you compare petrol vehicle versus electric vehicle.
What is your verdict on this?
My gut feel, I haven't done the hard science. My gut feel is currently electric vehicles are not as environmentally friendly over the full life cycle. However, if you take a long-term view, when electric vehicles become critical mass, or maybe if the vehicles can last you 15, 20 years, it might come out ahead, especially if the Indonesian grid switches to renewable sources. Right?
Okay.
Pull away from coal, the grid emissions fall. So I haven't done the hard science, but there will be a tipping point, and the tipping point comes mass adoption. Right? When you have mass adoption, then the marginal cost on the planet is lower. Right? I mean, before petrol cars is horse-drawn carriages. Right? At some point, petrol car was more environmentally friendly, and it always needs to, critical.
Okay, Vernon, 8 p.m. Jakarta time. The show is over. Thank you so much for your time. That's why I like Singapore slogans. I saw it everywhere. Travel light. I think travel on foot. You walk now. It's 100% green. Okay, thank you Vernon. Thank you for the participants in Zoom. And terima kasih yang mendengarkan di Jakarta, Surabaya, Semarang, Solo. Vernon, thank you so much. Again, thanks for the insights. Success to you. Stay healthy, everyone.
Recording stopped.
Terima kasih. Sampai jumpa di 60 menit berikutnya. Thank you. Bye.
saja kita ikuti 60 menit Sandler membahas What is Sustainability and Why Should Companies Care bersama Vernon Tan, co-founder and CEO Asia Renewables Carbon. Terima kasih atas kebersamaannya dan sampai jumpa.